Hello, everyone. This is Rick with the Cyber Pro podcast. Industry leaders share their insights. We love when we have new guests on the podcast, right? This is going to be a fun and exciting day. Alex, why don't you kick us off? Who are you and why are you awesome?
I'm Alex Quilici. I'm the CEO of YouMail. I'm awesome because I lead a company that is protecting America's phone numbers from scam calls and texts.
I love it. So, talk to us about that, right? You're the CEO of YouMail. Why should people be excited to work with YouMail?
Well, YouMail as a consumer app actually protects people directly by blocking calls and texts from scammers and spammers. YouMail also works with the nation's carriers. So when we find scam and spam calls and texts, we can show them they're happening on that carrier and they can shut down the bad guys putting them on the network in the first place.
So, really quick, I want to ask, whenever I get a spam call or I get a spam text, I, as a cybersecurity professional, like to mess with them. Should I not do that? Should I block it and make sure that like your tools or the providers, the wireless providers are actually being like, oh, we need to stop this?
If you know what you're doing, it's absolutely fine to mess with them because you're wasting their time. And ideally, you're learning something from the experience about how they operate, which will help you in other contexts. So I encourage fooling around with them, but be careful.
Fair. I love it. So what are some trends that you are seeing in the cybersecurity landscape?
So the biggest trends I'm seeing are targeting. The bad guys are getting smarter and smarter and they're targeting people. So if they want to do an impersonation of a bank, they're only calling that bank's customers. And so that's number one. Number two is they're using all these data breaches to convince people they really are the financial institution or other company they're impersonating. Put those two together and it's a dangerous trend.
So how can people who are worried about these data breaches be prepared for some of these scams?
So the simplest thing is don't have a trusting mindset. Assume it's a scam until proven otherwise. So when I get an alert from Citibank about my credit card, I'll go, you know what? I'm not just going to click a link on it. I'm going to go to the Citibank website and see. Sometimes they're real, sometimes they're not. That extra step makes all the protection difference in the world.
Alex, how can breached data be considered a weapon, right? We're seeing it being weaponized. It's something that's highly targeted from a robocall or robotext scam. Like what talk to me about this. I know that you mentioned this in past conversations, and I'm really excited for you to have your actual verbiage on my podcast for this.
Well, the simplest thing about breach data is it's being used to convince you that somebody is real. So they really are Citibank because they've got your social security number. They've got maybe even your account number. They've got your phone number. They've got all this stuff that you tend to think of as private, and they're using it in their emails or their texts or their phone calls so that you go, this must be Citibank. Who else could have all this info? And that works across the board, whether they're impersonating the government or a company, or they're even doing, a grandparent type scam. They know enough about your grandkid that you think, oh, it really is them. And so it's just really dangerous to have that data out there because it gives people traction and gives them credibility.
So I get a lot of questions about what is a robocall? What is a robotext? How are these people automating this? And then all of a sudden I answer and there they are.
So the really simple definition is it's an automated caller text. So it's made by an auto dialer, an auto texter. And the way they usually work is they create a list of numbers to call from. In the old days, it was just random, or they'll just dial for dollars, call 001, 002, work their way up. Nowadays, they may have a list from a data breach that said, here's a bunch of this bank's customers. Now I'm calling that bank's customers pretending I'm that bank.
Alex, how can people and businesses best protect themselves from these type of cyber threats?
So the really interesting thing is the attacks on business are going through the consumer device and the consumer messaging, consumer calling. So your company may give you a device. That's not the one that's getting attacked. It's your personal cell phone that they do a smishing attack or a vishing attack on. So it really is about how do you get you and your employees and your partners to pay attention to their consumer app and run protection apps on them. Be aware that that's where the attacks are going to be.
So how does YouMail and what do you guys do to protect that?
So we've basically have a large base of consumers using our app. We're protecting calls, texts, and voicemails. That actually helps us collect data on how the bad guys work so we know which phone numbers are bad, or which content of voicemails is actually bad, or which text messages are bad. And based on that, we can start blocking phone numbers, we can label calls, we can label text, put them in a different folder, do things to try to highlight the threat. It's not really perfect, but it's close, and it really, really helps dramatically reduce the chances of you falling for one of these scams.
Alex, talk to me a little bit about what you think are some common misconceptions that you're hearing around cybersecurity as a whole.
The biggest one is grandma's the target, and grandma's the one that falls for it. It's not true. Older people do fall for these scams, but the Gen Zers, the young millennials, they fall just as much, if not more. And so the misconception is protect grandma and you're done. No, no, no. It's everybody.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that I think we all understand, grandma might be the problem, but why do you think that the millennials, the Gen Zs, the younger crowd is also getting hit with these?
I think one reason is they're click crazy. You get a text message, there's a link to get a discount, click it, right? Like that's how you've grown up. And so you're just not aware of all the scams that are out there. When I was younger, I had no idea about, chain letter scams and all that until my parents explained it. I think that's the same thing that's happening now, but it's in the digital world.
And I think you and I grew up around the time frame where the email was from the Prince of Africa or something like that, right?
Yeah, the Nigerian prince, right?
Yes, there we go. So, Alex, talk to me a little bit about the sophistication we're seeing in these type of, smishing, cyber attacks, the SMS, the phone calls, the scamming. What is the sophistication level at this point?
So I'll give you an anecdote. So my wife got a scam text saying that our daughter had misbehaved and threatened somebody, and it knew where she'd gone to high school, what college she was going at, and did this whole thing. And, at first it's like, God, they had to do some research to do this because it wasn't real, right? It was a number we'd never seen. There's no follow up. And that's really sophisticated. So they're actually researching targets now. They're grabbing data. They're really going after people. And that's astonishing to me that they're taking that kind of effort. But there's so much data out there and there's tools to organize it. I guess it's not surprising. And in the enterprise world, pretending to be a CEO, they may know the CEO is speaking at a conference, and you'll get a text. I'm at a conference. I really need these gift cards sent to me so I can give them out at the conference. I mean, that's sophisticated, right?
It is. And so what is the general outcome? I mean, is it as simple as they're just looking for that quick dollar?
Yeah, they're looking for that quick dollar and they're succeeding. So I saw a report yesterday that estimated it was $12.7 billion in scam losses last year alone, which I believe was calls, texts, and maybe a few other categories. I mean, it's crazy.
How do you see artificial intelligence being used in cybersecurity, both by the bad actors and by those of us who are not bad?
The bad actors are just like the good actors, but they're doing bad things. So just like the good actors are exploring all sorts of use of AI from pretty mundane to very sophisticated, we're seeing the same thing with the bad actors. One of the simplest uses is clean up the punctuation and the grammar in text messages, right? Like that's a really sophisticated one. You see these emails combining personal data. We're using AI to get a better scripted email. It's already seeing phone calls that are bots with AI that are, when you start talking, they're qualifying you for the scam before they shift you over. So they're using AI everywhere they can. I mean, and they're even using AI to figure out, well, who are the best people to call? Like which phone numbers have the best track record? Which scams work the best? Which of 20 variants are getting the best results? I mean, they're unfortunately really, really good marketers.
Yeah, and talking about marketing, right? I mean, our marketing department, everybody's marketing department is using artificial intelligence to make that better scripted email so I can see how it's easier for the bad actors. What should some people be looking for when it comes to that kind of AI component, both, whether they're using it for good or whether they're being attacked by it?
Well, I think using it for good AI is really powerful because one of our goals is to be able to recognize patterns of bad behavior, like this content is bad or all these variants of this content are bad. Like the Amazon one, it's a $1,299 iPhone that you bought that you need to press one to prevent the transaction. And what are all the variants? AI is really, really good for that. So AI is a great tool for the good guys, but then the bad guys can also do tons of variants using AI. And so you've got the double-edged sword going on here. We're big fans of AI. I think it just makes our job harder, though, in terms of what we have to do.
Alex, I read a post that you made about fraud as a service, and I do a lot of work on ransomware as a service. And your conversation was really smart about meeting Gen AI and a few other things, relying on physical IDs. What are you seeing and what can we do?
Well, the problem with fraud as a service is it's now becoming ubiquitous. The phishing kits are so easy to get for email. There's phishing kits for text. There's phishing kits for calling. I think we're going to see that scale up. So even relatively unsophisticated actors can make progress. The sad thing is the best way around that is to be completely suspicious and don't accept inbound traffic. I mean, you really have to assume an inbound call is a problem unless you asked, to get your Apple ID or whatever. If you didn't ask for that, it's not real. And inbound texts are a problem. Even inbound emails are a problem. And so right now it's about educating consumers to be extremely careful. Did you expect this? Is this following up something you did? If not, put it in the bit bucket and you'll have to research what to do about it.
So we talked a lot about consumers, right? We understand that the consumer is being attacked to get back to the business, but how can businesses protect some of their employees from this happening more and more?
I think the number one thing is get sophisticated tools on the employees' personal cell phones. Get the employees to be willing to download apps like ours or other protective software, just like you want on their personal computer. You want to get them to do antivirus stuff if it's not already there. It's the same idea. So you have to educate your employees that you will be attacked. Like we get attacks all the time at our company, right? Pretending to be me, pretending to be somebody else. You will be attacked. Here's what you do when you get a text like that, and use these tools to try to minimize it. It really is a tough educational process. But the weakest link, oh, sorry, I was going to say the weakest link is what's most important, right? Like your weakest employee who falls for a scam, it's what's going to open up your database to the entire world. And so you really have to train the weakest of the employees and put a lot of effort there to move them up into understanding. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it's working now.
Thank you for adding that. I was actually going to ask about like where we should be going with that. So that's perfect. You actually just read my mind. So that was great. Alex, what do you feel is a critical aspect of a robust cybersecurity strategy universally?
So, I mean, it's a couple things. Number one is making it matter. And so, what happens with cybersecurity a lot is it's not a priority. You've got 10 things to do. The last thing you want to do is go spend 2 weeks making something more robust, especially when your ops person who's doing cybersecurity and everything else has all these tasks to do. So, I think the number one thing is making it a priority. And number two is educating everybody in the company how important it is. If you do that, then your ops team will be always thinking about cybersecurity first. And ideally, your employees will be thinking about cybersecurity to some degree. So really a lot of mental thinking about this, like being aware of it and not just doing the minimum.
Alex, thank you so much for being on the Cyber Pro podcast.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.